A tweet from US Coast Guard saying a field of debris has been located close to the Titanic wreck. That's now being analysed. We expect further information from officials in the next 2 hours. The submersible's owners calculate the oxygen supply was due to run out about 1 p.m. today, UK time. US Coast Guard continues to talk about a search and rescue operation. The families of the 5 missing men will, of course, be the first to know when, if search and rescue changes to search and recovery of bodies. The missing men are the CEO of the dive company Stockton Rush, who's American, Frenchman Paul-Henri Nagelet, and 3 Britons, Hamish Harding, Shazana Daoud, and his son Suleiman, a student at Strathclyde University. So leave, rescue, even finding the lost sub right now is monumentally difficult. The search area widened today to 10,000 square miles of ocean, quartered by ship, aircraft and sonar sweeping. France's Victor 6000 remote search vehicle, equipped with mechanical arms, is already deployed. A second such vehicle from Britain is flying in from Jersey, previously used to scan a 3D image of the Titanic wreck. But today is 4 days into this operation. They've been ready for days, but say they've been held up by red tape.
But I'm not hearing a transmission on this.
No, you hear nothing?
Yeah. Weird.
Tonight, video evidence of what it's like inside the Titan submersible at the Titanic wreck site when things go wrong. Last year, the sub lost communication with the surface support ship. All of it caught on camera by a passenger who was filming.
Drop weight for having the camera. There is something strange. The software is bizarre.
You
can see in my videos we lost communication more or less at a depth of 1,000 meters. The tolerance time passed and we were already aborting the mission. In fact, the first ballast was dropped, and just at that moment we recovered communication and we didn't lose it anymore, and that's why we were able to make the descent.
British businessman Chris Brown was signed up to go on the current ill-fated dive. He'd paid his deposit, but pulled out over safety concerns.
But the final tipping thing was that it became evident that they weren't going to seek certification for the vessel. And when they weren't even intending to get certification by calling it an experiment, that's when I thought there's just too many red flags here. So I pulled out.
Questions over safety are widening. The owners admit this submersible operation deliberately avoided safety regulation. The boss of the firm operating OceanGate Titan is proud of that, which means questions for the support vessel too. The Canadian-registered Polar Prince, with a crew of 17 and party to a submersible operating outside normal safety scrutiny. Is that legal? The mothership's operated by Horizon Maritime here in St John's, Newfoundland. Tonight, the International Maritime Organization told us all vessels in international waters must ensure safety conforming to accepted international regulations. The submersible's owners proudly admit they ignored accepted international regulations. That being so, the mothership's owners tonight have some very big questions to answer.
Alex Thompson there. Well, I'm joined now by Ryan Ramsey, who captained the nuclear attack submarine HMS Turbulent during a 23-year career in the Royal Navy. Thanks very much for joining us. I just want to ask you, first of all, the truth is we don't know what this debris field is or means, but what is your best assessment?
You're absolutely right. I think waiting for the facts from the Coast Guard is really important. My assessment, though, is if it is debris, then the probability is that the submersible has imploded on the way down.
And if there has been this catastrophic implosion, what is that most likely to have been caused by?
Well, that could have been caused by 2 things, although it needs some real analysis of the structure to be able to determine that. The first thing is that the carbon graphite and titanium hull had some defects in it, and therefore that imploded. Or the second one is that the hatch that they put on with the 17 bolts, once people are inside, there's been a failure on the hatch itself.
I mean, obviously at the heart of this, are 5 people who were on board and thoughts predominantly with their families. But this is not like an airplane with a black box. What might be needed to work out exactly what has happened in terms of recovering material from this debris?
Absolutely. My thoughts are with the families, actually, and I think all of us should be focused on making sure that they get the support that they need through this horrendous tragedy. The only way that they can work out what will happen is to gather as much of the debris as they can and bring that back to the surface, and then forensically analyse that debris to work out whether they can put it back together and find a cause for the accident.
I mean, there are so many questions across this whole episode. It's perhaps the first time many of us have even heard of this sort of world where people pay significant amounts of money to go on these commercial expeditions to such depths. What are the questions for you around this incident?
I think there's a question about regulation and how the standards were maintained for the build of this craft. If you look at some of the submersibles or the remotely operated vehicles that are now arriving on site, or the ones that have been down to depth to locate this debris, they go through a very stringent process to make sure that they're capable of doing what they're doing, and that's regulated, whereas this one appears not to have been.
I mean, we know, as Alex said, that the owners of this particular submersible operation were quite honest about sort of flouting or avoiding safety regulations. But there are questions tonight for the company operating the mothership too, aren't there?
I would think so. Predominantly, if you operate in an area that's less explored than space, in complex platforms to which most submarines are, then there needs to be some form of safety case. There needs to be safety processes in place, and you'd want to know that the equipment that you're taking into that unknown world is the best that it could possibly be.
And I mean, broader questions about whether these commercial expeditions should exist.
Yes, that's a tougher question, actually. I mean, you're almost comparing it to space flight at the moment. So it's almost the other way around with Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson and their commercialized flights into space. I think there'll always be a tendency for people to go and explore in exceptionally demanding ways. And that's how human endeavor progresses. The commercialization of that is a different question.
And just finally, you know, it has been an astonishing and continues to be an astonishing search and rescue operation, doesn't it?
It does. And I think if you think about the coordination, the leadership involved to coordinate different forces from different countries, mobilize assets around the world in order to come and support, has been quite incredible.
Ryan Ramsey, thanks very much for talking to us. Thank you.